Welcome to the IELTS Focus. Today, we're going to jump right in and boost your IELTS reading score. How? By mastering the vocabulary from a really cool passage all about animal intelligence. Let's get started. Okay, let's dive right into our first section. This one is all about primates, and we're going to look at some really specific words used to describe what monkeys can do with numbers. So check this out. Our very first key term is faculties. Now, when you see this in an academic text, it's not just a fancy way of saying abilities. It's really pointing to those deep, built-in skills that an animal has for understanding something like numbers. So that's the key, right? Faculties are those skills you're born with. And honestly, dropping a word like this into your own writing or speaking, it instantly makes you sound more academic. That's a huge plus for the IELTS. Ooh, I love this one. Practically identical. This is such a powerful phrase for making a comparison. When the author says their performance is practically identical, they're saying they are so similar, it's almost impossible to tell them apart. So what's the big deal? Well, it means any difference between the two is just tiny. It doesn't even matter. Using this phrase is a super precise way to show just how similar two things are. You should totally steal this for your own IELTS tasks. Okay, so we've talked about monkeys. Now let's switch gears and head underwater. This next section looks at vocabulary for aquatic animals, specifically salamanders and these little guys called mosquito fish. Listen to this verb, scampered towards. Isn't that great? It's so much more descriptive than just saying they ran. You can almost see the little salamanders moving, right? And that's exactly why choosing the right word is so important. Saying scampered instead of, walked or ran paints a much clearer picture in your reader's mind. That's a skill that'll get you big points. Okay, here's another one to watch for. Discriminate between. This sounds super formal and scientific, and that's the point. It's the academic way of saying an animal can tell the difference between things, like different numbers. See how that works? Just by swapping out a simple phrase like tell the difference for discriminate between, the whole tone of the sentence changes. It becomes way more formal, which is exactly the kind of language you want to be using for the IELTS. And this slide really brings that idea to life. So on one side, you've got the salamanders. They can tell numbers apart, sure, but only when one group is way bigger than the other. But then, look at the mosquito fish. The text says they have both approximate and precise number systems, which links them to what it calls more intelligent animals. It's a great example of comparing and contrasting. Okay, pay close attention here, because this next bit is so important. If you want to really understand those science passages you get in the IELTS reading test, you have to get the hang of experimental language, especially this idea of controls. And this is the phrase you need to know, controlling for. What does that even mean? Well, in a nutshell, it means if you want to prove an animal is actually counting, you have to get rid of every other possible reason for its choice. So think of it like this. Researchers have to be detectives. They have to make sure the animals aren't just picking the bigger shape or the brighter one. Controlling for means they're isolating just one thing, the number, to make sure that's what's being tested. And here's exactly how they did it in the mosquito fish experiment. They controlled for things like the size and brightness of the shapes by making them all the same. That way, they could be sure the fish were choosing based on the number of shapes and nothing else. Pretty clever, right? So we've seen what these animals can do, but why can they do it? Let's move on to the language of evolution and skills that animals might just be born with. Born with the skills already intact. This phrase is gold. It taps right into that classic debate you see all the time in academic writing, nature versus nurture. In other words, are these skills learned through practice, or are they just there from day one? Yeah, this really gets to the core of it. Is the skill taught, or is it there from birth? By the way, a fantastic synonym you can add to your vocabulary list is innate ability. They mean pretty much the same thing. And here we go, another really important scientific idea. Strong evolutionary advantage. This phrase is all about connecting an animal's skills to the big picture, its survival over thousands, even millions of years. Basically, it's a survival benefit. If a skill, like being good with numbers, helps an animal find more food or avoid becoming food, then that skill is more likely to be passed down. Over time, the whole species gets better at it. Okay, let's take a breath and do a quick review. We've covered some seriously high-level academic words today. These are the kinds of words that will really help you nail those tricky IELTS reading passages. So here's your vocabulary toolkit from today's lesson. We've got faculties for natural abilities, controlling for when we talk about experiments, all the way to evolutionary advantage. Take a second and let these sink in. And I want to leave you with this question. Just knowing these words is step one, but to really master them, you've got to use them. So my challenge to you is, which one of these are you going to try out in your next practice essay? Think about how it could make your argument stronger. Go on, give it a try.